NZ Aerosports, Icarus Canopies, now Gyro. That's right, we've rebranded, and Gyro is our next generation. It honours our founder, as that's the name we knew him by, but Gyro also marks the start of a new chapter. And not to be biased, but it's going to be fucking epic. Long story short, we're more us than ever, so if you're new to the sport, or even a Sky God Ninja Turtle, welcome. I think our valiant leader Lucy, Gyro's daughter, says it best.
And we still got that fuck your attitude. Rebrand! Woo!
Rebrand woo indeed, Lucy. Anyway, head over to gyro.com for more info and get amongst your legends.
I was 19, broke, unemployed, and sold my girlfriend's canopy for drug money. So I thought I better sew her a new one. What a sentence, and what a story. This describes the humble yet outrageous beginnings of NZ Aerosports, the home of Icarus Canopies, in the words of our founder himself. From getting a paratrooper toy from his mom, watching parachutes at the DZ as a 6-year-old, jumping off the wharf with a parachute made from bed sheets, doing his first jump at 16, sewing his first canopy on a borrowed machine at 19, and starting to sell parachutes out of a garage in 1986, Paul Gyro Martin had an undying love for the sky. Our company started with one man with the wildest of spirits and a true blue sky dream, a renegade. In the time that Gyro created and ran the Icarus Canopies brand until he passed away in 2017, he pushed everything he had to its limits. We miss him, and we always will. Gyro is the next generation of NZ Aerosports. It honors our founder, of course, because it was the name we all knew him by, but Gyro the rebrand also marks the start of a new chapter, our next jump. Gyro is the space between sound and silence, art and science, chaos and calm. Gyro is a state of epic tranquility that transcends understanding. That moment, in the door, in free fall, mid-swoop, where nothing but the present exists. A perfect balance of euphoria and thrill. Gyro captures our passion for flying and our commitment to designing break-the-fucking-rules canopies that deliver pilots pure, wild flight.
Coming straight from the cockpit, it's another episode of Lunatic Fringe with the fucking pilot.
Ready, set, go! Back in the can for another edition of the Lunatic Fringe podcast. And as I like to do quite a lot, I want to hear from all aspects of the sport, the old hacks and the pros and the beginners as well. So leading into that, tell me, who the fuck are you and what do you do?
I am Marshall West. I'm a custom painter. That's what I've been doing for like 20 years or so. I kind of got into skydiving by accident. I've surfed. I grew up in Northern California mostly. Huntington Beach. Los Gatos, Santa Cruz Mountains. Mountain biking, surfing, a lot of skateboarding. And then I moved back down here because my dad lives here in Huntington Beach. And I never really thought of skydiving as, I honestly, I thought it was boring. I'm like, I see these dudes, they're doing formations, and I never really saw it until, like I said, Chris Bryan's the guy that does the wingsuits? He's gone now. I started seeing some of those in my feed, and my wife and she had asked me a while ago, hey, you want to go on a tandem? And I'm like, fuck that. I don't want to I don't want to fuck it. Plus, I've always been deathly scared of heights. Like, I'm very scared of heights. Still to this day, but now I have more of an understanding about it, sort of. It's a weird thing.
Well,
Uh,
it's funny. A lot of skydivers are scared of heights, but I always say to people that have never jumped that there's fear of heights and there's fear of altitude. I'm not scared of
yeah,
altitude because it's really fucking far above heights. It's when I
yeah,
get
yeah.
it's when I get closer to the ground that it starts getting scary.
Yeah, the base heights look insane.
Yeah,
When you
a
start
tall
seeing
ladder.
trees that big, you're like, holy shit,
Yeah,
it's
man.
crazy. But I started watching some videos and I kind of started binge watching the team videos,
Mm,
the Friday freakout videos,
sure.
all the malfunction videos. And I just watched those over and over and over and over again. And to be honest, I'm kind of a gear whore.
Mm,
I spearfish a lot and I like all that technical, especially nowadays, the technology is crazy.
sure.
There's so much cool shit.
Oh yeah.
Everything, even in the 90s, I look at the videos from the 90s and see some of the stuff they're using. It's like, whoa, man, that's like, well, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
a lot
definitely.
different.
Well,
I
it's kind of
mean,
it's funny that your initial reaction to skydiving was that you thought it might be boring, which says volumes to me because that shows how far it's come that it's so mainstream. Regular skydiving is so mainstream that people are like, eh, eh.
well, no, that's not really why I thought it was boring necessarily, because I never watched it on YouTube.
Mm,
It was never in my feeds. I just kind of had a picture in my head
sure,
of guys jumping out of a plane, that old school stuff,
sure,
maybe Travis Pastrana and is doing his stunt or whatever.
right.
And then really the wingsuit stuff, which I'm not even interested in doing
Yeah,
because now I know what's involved in all that.
sure,
And I think those guys are absolutely crazy. I mean, they know what they're doing. It's a talent to
sure.
be
Oh, I
able to
think
fly
they're
one of
crazy
those
too.
dogs.
I fucking love it. I think it's absolutely amazing. And I've had
Yeah.
some of the world's best on the podcast, and I've told all of them I think they're fucking mental, but it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I just kind of I've seen some spins and things and people trying to get out and then they got like a horseshoe and all this crap. Um, but I asked my wife, I said, "Hey, you want to go on a skydive?" And she's like, I asked you that like 5 years ago. You didn't, you said it was stupid. Why jump out of a perfect, all the stupid excuses."
Oh yeah.
And I started looking up places to go. She's like, "Yeah, let's do it." So I looked up places. Obviously, Paris came up, Elsinore, and I didn't really do too much research. I'm just like, Elsinore's closer.
Sure.
So we scheduled. I actually, since I watched the weather so much, spearfishing and going on the boats and stuff and surfing, everything else, I'm like, I want to go in a day because it was in the winter time.
Mm,
So it gets kind of shitty over there.
sure.
And I'm just like in my head, I'm like, I want to go on a day that's not super crazy wind and all this stuff. So I actually pushed it off a couple of weeks to get like that, try to get that like that perfect day,
Sure.
when it was sunny. Um, and I had a guy, Kyle, I don't know if you know who he is,
I
Goldmeyer.
I probably wouldn't know names, but I know faces.
Yeah, Kyle, I had Kyle, and it's funny because Kyle is like the hardcore guy. Like, you don't fuck around.
Right.
This is what because he sees me coming and he's like, oh, this guy is a tough guy. I think he's fucking whatever. And I'm like the total opposite. I'm like, hey, dude, you tell me what to do. I'm gonna
Sure.
listen. I total humble myself. I want to learn. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, and my wife, we kind of got in a fight on the way there. I mean, we did get in a fight because I'm like, stop being a pussy. Because she's like, what about our children? And we're going to, if I die, then you die. And what if we both die in the same plane? And,
Right.
all that shit went through my head plenty of times. And I'm like, you know what? We're doing it,
Right.
basically.
Right.
And I kind of weighed the risk and I watched so much stuff. And so she had Seth and he was total mellow, like, okay, this is what you're gonna do, blah, 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 blah. My guy's like, dude, you ready to skydive? We're and kind of fucking with me a little bit.
Right.
Like,
Right.
okay, come on, let's go. You ready? And so we get up there, and I wasn't really nervous until the door opened
Sure.
and that blast of wind comes in, and I start seeing people go out. And then I'm like, holy fucking shit, because I'm looking out like, oh, this is happening now. Like,
Yep.
this is happening, because you get like 15 minutes going up, right? And I just remember, I don't remember much, but the initial free fall was so intense because there's two people, you're falling very fast. And I just remember the acceleration being so fast, it never ended. It was just like, and I couldn't breathe
Right.
at all. I could not fucking breathe. So I'm holding my breath like I'm free diving. I'm like, the video is not good.
Well,
I'm like,
nobody's first jump video is good. Nobody.
oh, my wife's was fine. She was like, yeah, her tits are hanging out. Like, it's like all good. I'm like, yours looks great. I look like, I can't breathe.
Sure.
And we land. I just could not even believe it. I was like ecstatic. It hit me in a way that I think it hits people in two different ways. And I try to explain this to people. You either think it's a ride or you think it's kind of something else.
Sure.
It's like almost like a religious experience, I'm telling you, man.
Sure.
For me, that's how I felt. Like, I was like, this is kind of something I've been looking for.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think you're right. There's definitely two schools of thought. I mean, there's a few more ways that people react, but there's a lot of people that do treat it as a ride, and they don't get quite what people like you and I do. But for anybody that's become a skydiver, something clicked, whether they hated it and something clicked, or they loved it and something clicked. Something fucking changed. And it just, was that burr that got under the saddle and they couldn't shake it, whether they signed up for the course that day or they waited a year to jump again. Something just got a hold of them and didn't fucking let go. And I know from talking to you previously, you got started a lot later than a lot of jumpers do. I mean, you got started as a skydiver at 45 with a wife and a kid. So things are hitting you a little bit differently than they do when they're 18, right?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of things went through my head, and my AFF was not easy. So afterwards, I'm like, I'm doing this. I kind of made up my mind that I wanted to try it before I even did the tandem.
Sure.
And I talked to Seth. I said, he's like an old Army guy or military guy. He does contracts and shit like that. I said, hey, man, what's the best way for me to get into this? Like, how do I do it? Like, AFF, what do I do? He said, go do 10 to 20 minutes in the tunnel and then sign up for AFF. And I swear to God, I try to push this on people. Go do some tunnel time.
Sure.
Because once I was out of that airplane, after I did 20 minutes of tunnel with an instructor, an actual skydiver teaching me the signals and stuff like that and how to arch. I got in that tunnel and I was a mess.
Sure.
Like, I thought, oh, this shit's easy, man. You just fucking go in there and you're flying around. No, it's not. It was hard for me to initially get kind of the arch down and not be potato chipping and doing all this shit. Well,
it's a really unnatural thing, right? I mean, all of a sudden you're having to.
It's weird.
You're
especially
controlling
that speed.
Yeah. Well, the speed, because the air's soggy, and then you're controlling limbs that you can't see anymore because you're arching, so you can't see your hands, and your feet are back there somewhere doing God knows what. It really is strange. And I've pushed people with the tunnel as well, in that tunnel flying and skydiving are two completely different sports in a lot of ways, but what tunnel flying gives you is a body awareness in the air that you can't get any other way than that or jumping.
Yeah, because you either just keep jumping and figure out like that,
Yep.
or, you're kind of got the cheat code a little bit.
Yep. Oh, you do.
And once I did that, I pretty much blew through my AFF, because anytime I was unstable or anything, I just fucking went back. Even if I'm on my back, I'm just like, boop,
Yep.
back right to level. I'm fine. I spun around coming out of the airplane once, and
Sure.
I would just go to the arch, and I'm like, oh, this is easy, right? I can always go to the arch position and chill.
Yeah, man. Trust that arch. So now let me ask you, starting at 45 with a wife and kids,
yeah.
were you getting shit from the family, your wife, or outside the family, extended family, for starting something like jumping out of airplanes? Yeah, were you?
Yeah, because spearfishing is dangerous enough as it is.
Yeah, more dangerous, I would say.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of friends die within the last 3-4 years, probably 4, maybe actually 6 people die that I know.
Oof.
So it can be very dangerous.
Sure.
And I go alone a lot, so which is not really the best thing to do. But I like to say I'm super conservative. But I kind of made it up. The money thing was another thing, because AFF is not fucking cheap.
Nope.
It was like $3,500 or something.
Yeah.
Because I didn't pay for the whole package. I did you pay for each one, you pay a little bit more.
Sure.
I did it like that because I wasn't going to just blow $3,500. So I'm like, what if I get to level 5 and I say, fuck it, I don't like it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I dove head in. I bought an altimeter right away. LB, the Ares 2, I got that right away. Like before I even started. I'm like, hey, can I use this? They're like, what if you don't like it? I'm like, I'm gonna like it. I ordered my helmet. I got a Tonefly helmet. Like I ordered that shit right away,
right,
because I knew it was gonna come, take like months and months and months. After I think my third jump, coach jump, whatever, or the third level, I ordered a container and a whole rig through Aerodyne.
You were ready to go.
Yeah, I'm like, because my body size is so messed up, like nothing fits me right, and it's just a little bit, I just don't like it.
Sure.
When I buy the gear, I want it to work and be functional. Otherwise, it's going to bug the crap out of me.
Sure.
And I figured, hey, if I need to sell this thing, I can sell it like instantly, because the lead times are so insane.
Yep.
But the thing that really screwed me was, I think it was in November I started. I have my logbook, I can show you, but it's like that the weather during that time was when we were getting tons of rain. So I would have to wait probably 2 weeks in between jumps.
Oof, that can make it tough.
And I would wait around all day to do one jump. And then I would have to drive an hour back to Huntington and then freak out again for another 2 weeks, thinking about, fuck, I gotta, because it builds up on you. You're like, oh, that was amazing. And then you start thinking about it again.
Oh, yeah.
And my instructors were very good, but they weren't fucking around. They were like, if you need to go in there and watch this video 25 times. You need to come out here in the mock-up. You need to do that 25 times. Get on the creeper, do that 25 times, and then show me. And if you don't get that right, you're going to start all over again. And if you miss anything on the jump, I'm going to fucking fail you. And I was like, God damn it, man. This is fucking intense. So that was because once I got to solos, I didn't fail any levels. I did well, mostly because of the tunnel.
Sure.
Because a couple people that I was with were just on their back spinning, doing all kinds of shit. But they didn't do tunnel. And one of the guys was a speed paraglider.
Wow.
And I mean, obviously, he could fly a canopy, but flying his body was a completely different thing, you know.
Sure. Well, I mean, the
And
courses can definitely get intense, and they can bring out whatever weaknesses you've got really quickly. But
oh yeah,
also, you're saying you're waiting a week or two in between jumps, so the fear is building up. And you
oh
said
yeah, it's
you
right
got
back.
sure. Well, and you said you were getting shit outside of jumping for getting started in it. I mean, I'd imagine starting at 45, you must have had family going, "What is this, a fucking midlife crisis? What is this shit?"
Well, you know, it kind of is in a way, but
Sure.
my whole thing, this is how I looked at it. Like I was saying, you know, I was hitting the gym very hard. I'm a big cardio guy. I've always mountain biked really hard. I like that feeling of just pushing your body cardio wise and
Sure.
just everything. So I just kind of dove back into that. And I'm like, you know what? And I told my wife, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be the old dad at the fucking, you know, school coming to pick up my daughter. I want and if I go in, if something happens, you know what I mean? Like I want my daughter to look at and say, my dad did what he could to be a badass
Sure.
and he lived his fucking life, not
Sure.
some dude that's, you know what I'm saying? Like
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of people now, I think, even some of my friends, they just kind of let life pass by and they're like, oh, I'm 45, you know, it's pretty much over.
Right. Well, I mean,
And
I think 2020 was a big wake up for a lot of people, because a lot of people are like, "Oh shit, this is like I haven't done a goddamn thing, and now I'm not even allowed to leave the house." So that kicked a lot of people in the ass. And for me, I continue on with that stuff because I see what happens when people don't do this kind of stuff. And shit, I'm 10 years older than you, and I intend to be a kid right up until they put me in the ground, you know. So it's that's the motivation.
I think it keeps you alive, right? I mean, it
Sure.
kind of keeps your brain working. And I'm hoping that's going to happen for me. You know, I like to think I jump conservative. Everybody says that, I guess. But I want to jump for a while. I want to preserve my lifestyle of skydiving
Sure.
and not get hurt. I want to try to not get hurt. And I'm not in a hurry to really, you know, do anything crazy, especially with canopy stuff. I'm flying a fucking 190
Sure.
and that's what I got, a low pack volume 190 that I just bought. So I got a really small rig so I can free fly. I can do all that stuff easily still. Um, and I'm happy with that thing, man. I like
Sure.
flying it and I want to fly the living shit. So the other thing I'll tell to like newer jumpers than me, like especially people that are out of AFF, I think it's very, very important to take a goddamn canopy course.
Oh yeah. Oh, without a
I
doubt.
took flight one at like 31 jumps.
Yeah. I had Jason Moletsky on, who of course is one of the founders of Flight One, and
Yeah, okay.
I mean, he talks about the incredible success of the courses, not only in how many people that they've had through, but in what it teaches. I mean, it's absolutely invaluable. And back when I started, the only canopy lesson, canopy coaching that I got was fly that thing till you can do everything with it, which is great advice, but it doesn't really
Yeah.
tell you when it's time to step it down. Between you and I, the only reason that I started downsizing was because back in the day, you could start working in the sport a lot earlier than you're allowed to now. And I was shooting tandem videos when I had less than 100 jumps. But
I know, I hear that shit.
I couldn't beat the tandems to the ground because I was flying an old F-111 190, and I'd have to, as soon as I was open, bury a toggle just to make it to the ground before the tandem I was filming. So I
Oh,
only
wow.
downsized out of
Well, those were
necessity.
290s, right? Weren't the
Um,
tandems then like
uh,
290s or some shit?
no, they were bigger than that. 240s, 300s, yeah,
Okay.
massive canopies,
Okay.
500s. Yeah, yeah. It was, or pardon me, 340s. Yeah, just massive, massive canopies. And I still couldn't beat him down. So I only downsized because I had to. Otherwise, I was on the slow track and in no particular rush.
Yeah. And actually during my canopy course, it's like a 2-day thing. And I stayed at Elsinore, and because it's super cheap to stay there. And but those 2 days were the worst days as far as wind. People were landing off left and right. I mean, we didn't even get all our jumps in because it kept going to the limit, going to the limit. So we'd get like maybe 4 jumps one day and then maybe 5 the next day. And people were getting absolutely wrecked.
Sure.
And at that time I was on a 210, I think. I just got on a sport rig. I mean, I just got out of AFF, so I'm on a sport rig, like a 210, and didn't really know much about it. And a dust devil picked up my canopy after I landed.
Ooh.
And it pulled me into the runway. And the caravan was coming and had to fucking do a go around. He had one of his wheels on the runway.
Oh man.
And just went, and I'm like, fuck. I didn't know to pull the rears.
Sure.
I didn't know, to just kind of let it go down. I didn't know.
Those boys in Elsinore are well trained though, so that's good.
and that's the other thing, because I told Kyle, actually he told me, he's like, hey, you learn how to fly here, and a lot of military guys train there, because it's so random the way
Sure.
the wind is, especially like in the summertime. Everybody's like, oh yeah, I want to go jump in the summer. Actually, the summertime is the most dangerous.
Dust devils.
Because they just dust devils and fucking updrafts and all kinds of shit. It's fun, but it is crazy.
Sure.
And I'm kind of glad that's what happened, because now I'm like, okay, I know when to call it quits. I know when to stay on the ground.
Yep.
And I have no problem doing that. When it gets about, I don't know, 15, 16 miles an hour, I'm like, let's just see what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, man.
And
I considered myself real lucky too, in that I started out at Skydive Las Vegas, which is still one of the most challenging drop zones I've ever jumped at. Consistently, it was the most challenging wind-wise and dust devil-wise. We had a kid that finished AFF just a couple of weeks before I did, that actually got caught by a dust devil at about 100 feet and was killed on my favorite rig, no less.
Shit.
Oh yeah, wow. Man, they're no joke out there. But I learned how very quickly to land as good flying backwards as I did forward, because when you were working, especially at that drop zone, you jumped when the owner said jump. And man, oh man, there's something to be said for learning how to jump in that shit, but there's also a lot to be said for not having to do it.
So you're saying flying the headwind is going faster than your forward speed, so that you're going like this as you're elevatoring down.
Oh yeah, I've landed a Stiletto 135 going backwards almost as fast as it flies forward.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I think the strongest consistent winds that we were jumping in were well over 30 miles an hour.
Holy shit.
Oh yeah, nasty. The only thing that made it possible where we
was
were
that with Mike Hawk.
That's a good way to call him.
Is that really his name? Is that really his fucking name?
Michael Hawks was his name. Is his name?
But it's Mike Hawk.
Hawks,
but still, it sounds like
Without going into too much detail about working for him, that's pretty much how I felt it should be pronounced.
Okay, yeah, I know you didn't like him, so I listened to all your podcasts. I'm like, you were a big fan, I guess.
No. I mean, it was a trial by fire out there, and I learned a lot, man. I learned a shitload, and there was an incredible crew out there. That we had a great time and did a lot despite who owned the place. Luckily, he doesn't own that anymore. I have no idea what he's doing. Could care less.
Yeah. That's crazy. What
So
else I wanted to ask you about?
getting started in Elsinore. I haven't been to Elsinore in a long time. In fact, the last time I jumped to Elsinore was in '98. So it's been a few
Oh,
years.
really? Oh,
Yeah, it's
shit. Okay, okay,
been a
yeah.
few years since I've been out that way, but I hear obviously wonderful things. It's still, one of the places to go, especially in California. So the community, walking into it as a 45-year-old new student, how did you feel about all that?
Well, there's a couple things. I don't drink and I don't party anymore. So like I'm like 14 years sober now.
Nice.
Uh, but it's not like any of that shit bothers me. Like I
Sure.
can easily hang out. But I was so like, especially during AFF, normally I just went home after that. I jump,
Sure.
I could be sitting there all day. I jump, go home. I have obligations. So I've never really been able to hang out, which sucks.
Mm,
Just because of those things. And plus I don't have my own rig, so it's like I got to deal with all that shit.
sure.
Once I have my rigs come in the middle of November, hopefully. So after that, I'm hoping that I know everybody.
Sure.
I know a lot of people, but I don't really get to hang out
Sure.
because of my family and stuff like that. So I'm going this weekend to Chicks Rock. It's 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Nice.
I'm going Friday and I'm going Sunday because I can't stay. It's just like a whole thing. But as far as the community, I've never had a problem with that. I'd like to say Kyle's kind of taken me under his wing a little bit, but I mean, I don't know, it's
Sure.
like
Sure.
he's definitely been super tough. Like I think on my third jump, he was maybe it was my fourth. Yeah, because it was just him. We're out the plane, he's holding on to me, and I'm doing something, and he's like, bam, right in my head, like fucking arch, fucking arch. And I'm like, I fucking love that shit.
Yeah.
Like I like that. I like, hey man, like this is a serious thing,
Sure.
and I hate to think that skydiving is turning into something that's not that, because from what I've heard from you, it seems like since it's so mainstream and there's so many more people, it's like spearfishing's almost exactly the same thing because of YouTube. I think a lot of people see it on YouTube, they go out and they're experts.
Sure.
And I never took spearfishing like that because it's a dangerous sport.
Sure.
I went into skydiving. I took in all the information that I could. I mean, I have been since I started. I just podcasts, everything, Brian Germain's things. I've got all that stuff. I got the
Sure.
Crave thing now, and like,
Sure.
which that stuff helps. But I think a lot of people go into it and don't know what the fuck they're doing because they see it on YouTube, and that's it.
Sure.
They think you can land a fucking wingsuit.
Hey,
Which I guess you can. Let's say, okay, technically they're right.
yeah. Yeah. No, they are right.
Technically they're right, right?
It has been done once.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sure plenty of people have landed them, just not a
yeah,
lot.
right.
So
The thing with skydiving and the YouTube generation and the social media thing is a lot of people will show up to the drop zone thinking that they've got it all handled, but that's self-correcting pretty quickly. You either end up with the mentality that you have, which is oh shit, I need to pay attention and learn from these guys, or you don't end up a skydiver. It just doesn't happen. And one of the really cool things that I still love is every instructor's kind of got their own way. And it sounds to me like you've got an instructor that was probably quite a bit like me in that when you vibe with a student, I'm going to have no problem if I know how you learn, popping you on top of the head and going, the fuck? Come on, get back here and do this with me, because they know I'm just trying to, hey, here's a tap on the shoulder, man. It's time to get serious about this. But obviously different instructors work differently with different students. And so I think there's still a great variety of how people can handle it. And if somebody knows that you receive that kind of thing well, I think skydiving is the place that you can get that kind of learning environment.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about him, I learned later that he was a smoke jumper and they were jumping square parachutes. I'm like, and he's like, he started at Elsinore. He's like, ah, this is fucking, I can land in that fucking little tiny thing here, like
All right.
it's almost like a base jump landing area, when you're smoke jumping, I guess.
Yeah, depending
Um,
on where they're going for sure.
yeah, and the other thing I wanted to ask you about, I know you said the pack. I've never flown in a pack.
Oh, it's
That's
fun bird,
one of
man.
your favorite.
Yeah, well,
And
that was my first love. That's the first turbine that I ever flew. Ray Farrell, the guy that used to own Skydance Skydiving, was the one that kind of helped tweak the design and then bring it to the United States from New Zealand. And so the one that
oh,
I was trained in was actually the first Pac 750 ever in the United States. Actually, correction, the first one is still like 100 miles off the coast because it crashed on the way to the
oh
United
yeah,
States.
that's right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so I trained in Davis flying that and had an absolutely amazing time. It's just for a tandem oriented operation, I don't think there's a better plane. I personally, I like it better than the Caravan. It's not particularly fun jumper friendly in that it's got a shorter door than the Otter.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So people much prefer an Otter if they're fun jumping. I had a lot of fun
Okay.
jumping out of it as well. But as a tandem instructor and a jump pilot, the Pack was a blast.
So what's up with I flew my favorite is the Caravan because it seems so fast and
Mm,
you get up to altitude very fast, at least with the ones from Elsinore.
mm,
I guess they've got some whatever that's makes them faster or whatever.
sure,
But I flew in the Otter and that thing was slow as shit.
sure,
And
depends.
it took forever and it was like I was breathing exhaust the whole time.
Yeah.
And
So
I'm just like, what the fuck is this,
the Caravan conversions can be really fast, especially if they're not heavily loaded. Twin Otters, I've flown some ridiculously fast Twin Otters. I've had sub 15-minute turns from wheels to wheels, which is an
Oh
incredibly
wow.
fast turn in a Twin Otter. But that was a Twin Otter with brand new Dash 34 engines, super lightweight, beefy as just fast as fuck. And
Yeah.
so it's a variety, I mean, there's still Twin Otters out there that are operating with tired, smaller engines. It depends, obviously, if it's hot, if the plane's heavily loaded. But yeah, Twin Otters aren't necessarily the fastest, they're just a workhorse.
And they have two engines because you started talking about that and I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
there's
The,
only one fucking engine on a Caravan.
yeah. And before, I want to say 5 years ago, I would have told you if the engine goes out on a Caravan, if you're high enough, all the jumpers are going to be able to get out. And you can actually, the glide ratio on a Caravan's really good. So you can make it quite a distance. But then at the operation I was flying at, we had a Black Hawk conversion Caravan and the engine seized completely about
It just
2,300 feet.
stopped.
Yeah, and it did it without the propeller feathered. So that
Yeah.
plane went from 2,300 feet to the ground. And I want to say it was like something like 85 or 90 seconds. Everybody had to stay on board. Luckily, real heads up instructor in the back kept everybody in their seats, and a really current heads up pilot got it safely landed. But sketchy, scary. And
So that's that video, right? The video where they land next to the road.
no, 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 no. There's no video of this. And that particular plane, after it landed, caught fire and burned to the ground. So that
Oh
plane doesn't
shit.
that plane doesn't exist anymore. Now, that being said, I've had a number of single engine situations in a Twin Otter, and I don't enjoy flying a Twin Otter on one engine, but it's nice to
Yeah,
know you
yeah,
can
yeah.
do it if you have to.
I mean, it's better than nothing, I would assume.
It's a lot better. It's a lot better. And I mean, that all boils down to, pilot training and all that. If you've got a pilot that can handle it well, then single engine or multi-engine, a good pilot's gonna, do the job for you. And one of the benefits to drop zones like Elsinore where you're jumping is they have great training programs for their pilots and extremely experienced guys. You know, drop zones like Elsinore and Paris Valley and Chicago and all this draw pilots that want to stay there and fly there, and they take good care of them and they train them really well, because I mean, shit gets dangerous.
Yeah, that's really I'm always scared of the takeoff.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Absolutely.
You know, because I'm like looking down, I'm like, hey, we're at 1,000 feet and it still looks like we're on the goddamn ground.
Yep.
And you hit the ground anywhere around there. I mean, there's places you could go, but it's gonna be a very fucking bad day.
Oh, yeah.
And it just looks like shit, you know. So I'm always scared about that. Um, what do you think as far as tandems? Do you think there's ever going to be free fly tandems or head downs
Oh, there has
in the
been.
future?
In
Well, okay, I know that, but I mean, as a thing, since base
No.
jumping is doing tandems, do you think there's ever going to be?
I don't think so, if only because the equipment's not really designed for it. And being in a head down orientation with students now, you're talking
Oh,
about,
and the drogue sticking out, I
well,
guess.
so you wouldn't be able to do free flying, you can't throw the drogue, right? So in
Yeah.
order to and I've filmed head down and sit flying tandems before, when they actually designed the the relative workshop tandem rig, and they were using or building the smaller tandem rig. They actually brought it out to Skydive Cross Keys, where a bunch of us were working, and said, as long
Hmm.
as it's an instructor on the front, you guys can do whatever the hell you want with this rig. We're just kind of beta testing it to see what it can take. And so we're rolling out of the helicopter and sit flying and head down free flying and all this stuff.
Wait, was that stoner rig or whatever it's called? What was that
No,
one
no, no,
rig
no.
you're
This was the
talking about
relative
that?
workshop, the tandem rig that's now the Sigma, the Micro Sigma, that's
Oh, okay.
like
So,
the standard tandem rig. That's when Sigma was coming out. Not to
okay.
to age myself too much, but the thing with free flying is you get to those incredible speeds on a tandem, and now the smallest movement from a student can do God knows what. You know, it's just too unpredictable. It's just not safe enough.
Yeah,
And
I
tandems
gotcha.
are that introduction, right? They're that, hey, this is what's,
Go do AFF
yeah, this is
if you
what's
want to
out
do anything
there.
else.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You know, it's that
yeah.
first taste. And I would always tell people, I'd have students ask all the time, hey, can we do flips and do this and do that and the other thing? And my response would never be to say, yeah, of course we can. It would be, I promise you, none of this is going to be boring. And of course, I wouldn't do flips out the door. I wouldn't do all that crazy stuff. And of course, they were always like, oh my God, that was fucking incredible. Yes, of
Yeah,
course.
they don't even know
No,
what's happening.
no,
Yeah.
no, absolutely not.
Um,
Yeah. So
another thing I kind of,
yeah,
yeah,
please go
go
ahead.
for it.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I just kind of wanted to get this in there as far as my AFF and new people and tandems and everything else. I know it's very expensive to do your AFF and or even a tandem. You know, $200 is $200, especially now. Sometimes it's 250
Yep.
plus the video and all that shit, right? But I made it my mission, even when I had, 1 through 3, I had 2 instructors. I made sure I tipped the shit out of those guys.
Sure. Sure.
um, they are very underappreciated, I think, by a lot of people because people just say, "Oh, I'm paying all this money. Why should I, tip these people?" Um, I pay when I have a packer, I pay $10 a pack job for my rig. It's normally 7, I pay 10.
Sure.
Uh, and I give them a $30-$40 tip on top of that. Just because I see these, I've been in like manual labor type shit my whole life.
Mm.
And those guys are workhorses. And I
Yeah.
really feel like if you're gonna get into the sport, make sure you take care of these guys that are just turning these loads like absolute maniacs. And the guys filling the plane with gas. Tip
Sure.
the fucking pilot. Tip the guy picking you up in the van.
Wouldn't that be something if the pilots got tips?
Yeah, no, I've done that shit. I fucking bring beer. Make sure you bring some beer. I mean, if you can't afford to tip somebody, bring some beer
Sure.
and do that. And I think that's kind of what made me seem like less of an asshole just from my face, 'Cause I think a lot of people I give them maybe the wrong impression right away.
Sure.
I just get that a lot, so I want to really humble myself and say, hey, I don't know shit.
Sure.
Just teach me. You're the expert. You tell me what to do. And that's how I want to learn,
Sure. Well, and that's honestly,
Um,
that's a good way to go into a sport like skydiving, is knowing that somebody always knows more than you. And
oh yeah.
to this
Oh
day,
fuck, I'll never know.
there's people that know so much more than I do, and I
Yeah.
think I have a pretty good handle on what's going on. But the fact of the matter is, I'm still learning every day about the sport, every person that I talk
Yeah.
to, which is
With the
amazing.
tunnel and shit, it's crazy.
Oh,
I
dude, don't
mean,
even get me started on the tunnel. Those fucking
that's
guys,
fucking crazy.
man, because I started out as a
Bro,
tunnel instructor at
that's right.
Flyaway in Vegas, and
Yeah.
cut to walking in the tunnel in Dubai with the rock stars that had been flying there forever, and just shaking my head, going, I don't even want to fucking get in there. This
Man,
is
you guys
insane.
got hooked up out there.
Yeah, I kind of got in at the very end of the golden age, but
Oh, so it wasn't really as
oh no, I had a great time. Don't get me wrong, man. I was very well taken care of, especially when I first got there. I walked around in
yeah.
a daze going, I get to do
Holy
what?
shit.
Yeah, it was amazing. And still is, I mean, they've got an incredible operation out there, but the golden age, yeah, there'll never be anything like that in skydiving again, ever.
Yeah, that shit
Ever.
is crazy. I hear some of
Yeah,
those
man.
stories and it's
Yeah.
unbelievable. Um, just one more thing. I'm kind of going into obviously I've been doing a lot of belly flying. I only have 70 jumps, but I've been doing a lot of the Excel courses. And I don't want to talk shit on anybody. Uh, but I want to learn more free flying. So actually I've been doing a lot of solo jumps
Sure.
uh just to do more tracking jumps, more head down jumps. I did take some coaching for some back flying. But I really like head down very fast, and I also want to try to get into speed flying,
Sure.
just the like
Oh yeah.
just try to I love going fast. Um but obviously it's very hard to do that unless you're getting a lot of coaching, first of
Sure.
all. Which I don't always have the money to do that.
Sure.
And I wish there was a way, because there's an Excel course at Elsinore and it's very good. All these guys are very good. Um and you can't really even start tracking until you have about 200 jumps,
Sure.
because they keep it very low. I think it's like maybe 3 max, the leader and then 2 other people, which is obviously the way to do it. But I wish they would kind of incorporate more of everything at the same time. Like, okay, you're going to be doing belly, but maybe you can get into a different, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Sure. Well, I mean,
I guess that's not how you do it, but I think now that there's so many disciplines, and you might end up on your back, you might end up free flying. Every rig should be free fly friendly, I think,
hmm. Not
because
not
you
having
know,
been in an AFF school or dealt with rental rigs in a very long time, I can't speak to what most operations have. I would assume that most of them are pretty bulletproof, but it depends. Obviously, in smaller operations, that's not going to be the case. And it's good that you're paying attention, and it's incredibly important, especially when you're at the phase that you are, that that the gear you're jumping is up to the task you're
oh
putting it
yeah,
towards.
yeah,
So
for
making
sure.
sure that your shit's free fly friendly is a big deal. In regard to kind of branching out, obviously coaching gets pricey, but the cool thing is, being where you're at, where you've got both Elsinore and Paris Valley relatively within reach, there are so
Yeah.
many people that are going to be roughly at your skill level that you're going to be able to kind of match desires and get just a little bit of coaching that can spread out through that group. And someone else has gotten coaching that you haven't gotten yet, or they learned something that you haven't learned. So you start bouncing off of each other. And next thing you know, you've got that 200 jumps and you're with the group that's doing that. That's the benefit too, is being at those operations, is there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be in that area.
Yeah,
Or
there definitely are.
yeah, or they're going to be people that are well above your experience level that absolutely love taking on younger jumpers. I've had many, I'm sure you've heard on the podcast, many people that just absolutely get off on grabbing the young pups and taking them up and showing them shit. Who doesn't like to be the big fish? Well, if I'm really good at tracking, but I suck at everything else and you suck at tracking, I get to teach you how to track. That's fucking fun,
Yeah,
man.
that's true. I've had it happen a couple times, but I think a lot of it's also my fault because, like I said, I don't have a rig yet, so I'm
Sure.
still renting. So right now I'm kind of just waiting. So
Sure.
I stay current enough to not have to redo it. Um, and I think then I'll get to hang out more and kind of
Sure.
talk to more people. I know a lot of people. I know everybody's faces, but it seems like sometimes fun jumping, it's mostly just they kind of branch off into their little cliques.
Sure. Sure.
You got the swoopers, then you got the angle flyers,
Sure.
and then you got the fucking free flyers, and I always see them together.
Sure.
And I mean, I guess it's just an experience thing. You got to just put in the time. I understand that.
Well,
I
put in the
just
time,
can't.
and honestly, the other thing is just be that guy. Be that guy that walks up and is like, "Dude, what are you doing? Can I come?" Or if I can't come, where do I need to get to be that guy? And the other advice that I would give, especially because you're doing this on your own and you're kind of splitting time between family and this,
Yeah,
drop zones on the weekends can be incredible places to take the family, even if they're not jumping. You've got you say a 2-year-old daughter?
she just turned 3, so
So talk about an incredible age for her to be sitting on the ground and your wife to be going, "That's dad."
oh yeah, that's what she probably would like that.
Yeah, man.
Maybe
Skydiving has
I'll try
become
that.
so much more of a family thing, even when the whole
Yeah,
family doesn't jump. Obviously, your wife's going to kill you if you try and drag her out to the drop zone every weekend if she's not partaking with you. But one
yeah, yeah,
weekend every month or two, and you'd be surprised how much more you can focus on that as long as your wife and your kid are having fun on the drop zone as well. And you kind of get that social interaction that it sounds like you're not getting quite yet.
yeah, yeah. I get, it's just time. And oh, and the other thing is, we're moving
Uh-oh.
to DeLand.
Oh, well, shit. Wow, if you're moving to the land, that's problem solved.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, because we were moving to Florida anyways. We were thinking about it because we can't afford shit here. It's too fucking expensive, man. We can't
Sure,
buy a house. It's just bad.
sure,
And we were looking more towards like Fort Lauderdale, and we're like, and I'm like, let me check out DeLand. I'm like, that's the mecca of skydiving, and it looks like a rad place. And
yep,
I'm looking, well, Deltona is kind of where we're looking now. Um, it's got trees. It's got the ocean's close.
yep. Oh
Uh,
man, I'll give you a list of names so damn
and it,
long.
bro, you know what? Thank you. I was gonna ask you because we're moving in. I think April is when we're shooting for it. My wife just got hit and run yesterday,
Oh shit.
so and my van just got broken into like maybe a week or so ago.
Motivation
Yeah, dude,
to motivation to take the next step.
yeah, we're over it. We're over it, man. So, not to say that Florida is less crazy or anything, but
It's all
uh,
crazy everywhere, man. I've lived all around the
we
world now, man. It's nuts everywhere.
yeah, we just want to be in a place that's kind of like a little bit more family friendly, trees,
Sure.
lakes, stuff like that. Not so much kind of the city.
Sure. Well,
Um,
and one of the things that you'll hear quite quickly about DeLand is family is a word that fits quite well. I mean, the people that are in DeLand, lots of them have been there for a very long time. They've made it home
I
for
heard
a
it's
very long
awesome.
time. Manufacturers, gear reps,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
best of the best. Blue Skies magazine that I used to write for was based out of DeLand. It just is.
Fly for life, right?
Yeah, man, it's so you're going to a place where you're going to have ample opportunity to meet a ton of people, both more experienced that are happy to mentor and people that are at your level that are wanting to play. So, man, you're on the way to a great place. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
as we wrap things up, how do people find out about you? How do they get a hold of you? So for the people that are listening from DeLand right now that are like, this guy sounds cool, I want to go jump with him. How are they going to get a hold of you?
I guess my email is probably the best thing. It's marshallwest78@gmail.com.
Cool.
I'm on Facebook, but it's just Marshall West. I don't know anything about Facebook really. So
What I'll recommend with
uh,
Facebook, there's and I'm sure you've
I'm
heard.
on the beginning.
Yeah, man,
I'm on that. Yeah, yeah.
that's the
I
Beginner
commented on one
Skydiving
of your
Forum.
things.
That's an
I
absolutely great site to kind of put feelers out as well, especially
And I
if you're going
read
to be
your
relocating.
book 3
Oh,
times
nice,
so far. I fucking love it.
nice.
It's the best. Anybody out there, go read the fucking book. I need to get the stripper one too. The
Yeah,
accidental
the
stripper.
accidental stripper. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. The Lunatic Fringe
I
book is the
mean,
one you're talking about. That was all Blue
I
Sky stuff.
really, I don't understand how I didn't hear about you like sooner because you sound like the skydiver that I've always like been meaning to meet. That's why I emailed you because I'm like, this dude sounds fucking real, and he sounds like a nice guy, and he's lived a lot of cool shit at Cross Keys and all that shit.
Yeah, man.
I don't
I
know,
was
sounded rad, dude.
I had a really lucky career and have met a lot of amazing people and
Yeah,
I've said it many times. The coolest thing about me are my friends and the people that I get to hang out with, because at the end of the day, I'm an average skydiver, an average workhorse, and an average jump pilot that's just been in the right place at the right time and had amazing
perfect time.
experiences. And you're just getting started, man. And the coolest fucking thing about
Yeah.
skydiving is at 45, you're still just getting started.
Oh yeah, yeah. I hope I have a little bit of time left to just learn and have fun, and that's all I want to do. I mean,
Well,
I'm so fucking addicted to it.
you've got the right
So
mentality in that you're not in a rush to do anything crazy. You know when to say, yeah, that's not quite for me yet. And taking
yeah,
your time to get into it. So, Marshall, I love the fact that we had a chance to sit down and talk. I wish you all the best of luck in the adventure ahead, and I
thank you,
guarantee
man.
DeLand, you're gonna love it, man. Really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
hey, I appreciate you having me on, man. You're rad. So
It's been
thank
fantastic.
you.
Take care, man.
All right, bro.
See ya. Well, there you have it. Another episode of the Lunatic Fringe podcast brought to you as always by, well, wait, not as always, actually. Brought to you now by Gyro. Formerly known as NZ Aerosports, you'll head to gyro.com for their next level line of canopies. By Pussfoot, the Extreme Sports Collective. Head over to pussfoot.com to check it out. By Summit Parachute Systems, check out summitparachutesystems.com to talk to Jarrett Martin and the gang about kick-ass pilot rigs, rigging courses, and more. By Flyaway Indoor Skydiving, go to flyawaytn.com and check out all the cutting-edge stuff to come. By Pure Spectrum CBD, head to purespectrumcbd.com to check out their wide range of CBD products. And as for us, head to the lunaticfringepodcast.com to listen to any of the hundreds of episodes currently available, hit the link for our YouTube channel, pick up your copy of the Lunatic Fringe book or The Accidental Stripper, and get a sneak peek at upcoming guests. Once again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.